Hey guys, welcome back to the Calibrate Tools and DIY channel. Glad you guys can make it, whether it's now or in the replay. Happy to see you here, wherever you are in the world. On this side, it's nighttime. On the other side, it's daytime. Wherever you're at in the world, appreciate you coming in and checking out the channel. Sponsored by Calibrate.com. Got some great products over there, guys. Go check it out. Holidays are coming up. We got some great gift items, some great gift sets for you at Calibrate.com. Some tool sets. We got all kinds of stuff over there in relation to tools and supplies that everybody needs. Okay, so don't forget to support and check it out and see what we have for you. So on today's live, I figured I'd address a subject that I think is very serious. That we don't know how serious it can be, and reason being is I came across a situation this past weekend. Actually, not just this past weekend, but I saw the signs of it. I didn't really know what it was, but I saw the signs of it maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I figured I'd address it here on the live, because in case any of you guys may be encountering the same thing or don't know what it is. So I don't have it with me, but I should have brought it. I went to a friend of mine's spot, and they showed me their kitchen light fixture. Okay, and they said it had some dark stuff on it. So I took off the dome and I looked at the light bulb, and on the light bulb it had some I don't even know what to call it, but some dark spots on the light bulb. So I figured maybe the light bulb's touching something, it's burning too hot, uh, uh, it's contacting something, and it's causing this whatever it was on the light bulb. And so I took the light bulb off, and I figured, okay, um, I didn't really think much of it after that. Okay, until I was called back maybe a couple of weeks later, a week or so later, and it was water droplets, or a puddle of water on the floor underneath that light bulb, that light fixture, I should say. And so I was like, okay, what's going on here? So I took the light fixture off. I took the dome off, and a bunch of water fell out of that. I was like, okay, this is a serious problem here. You have water contacting an electrical system there, a light fixture. Fortunately, nothing happened, right? There was no short. There was no a fire didn't happen, because I would have heard about it anyway if that happened. But that's, it was the result of water damage, right? Water damage, that fortunately didn't go the other direction, where, that light fixture could have sparked, or something could have shorted out, and the whole building could have burnt down. So, like I said, thankfully I was alerted of it, and I investigated it further and found that it was definitely water damage. Because I wish I had pictures to show you guys, but I think I'll probably make a separate video where I can have some photos for you to show you what happened there. But yeah, when I took the light fixture, the dome part off, the covering, the drywall on the ceiling underneath was all, it had bubbles. It was soaked, and it was very, you know, uh, it could have been a very bad situation, um, if it was left and ignored. Right, something could have happened. Right, it didn't get into the insulation of the wiring for the lights, and the lights still work and everything. But man, could you imagine if that dome filled up with more water until it actually, you know, uh, the bulbs became submerged in water? That could have, it could have been a very, uh, very bad situation. So anyway, I called in the called in the pros. They looked at it and decided it was on the first floor, so they decided to go up to the second floor and see what was happening. And apparently, it was not the first time that you had water issues in the building, um, but it was the garbage disposal on the second floor was leaking. Okay, so that water from the garbage disposal, moisture, or whatever, leaked from the sink area in the floor all the way down to the light fixture on the floor beneath. Okay, so the source of it was the second floor, right? And why was the garbage disposal leaking? Who knows, right? I didn't even know garbage disposals could leak like that. But you know, It could have been it's all kinds of reasons for water damage to happen, and you got to be very vigilant when you're inspecting your home, right, to see what's going on every now and then, because it's things can happen like that. Unfortunately, like I said, I caught it. It was caught in time, so nothing major happened. So on this live, I want to kind of go over some what water damage pretty much is and things to look for, to so you won't be caught off guard and end up having to pay thousands of dollars uh, to repair your property, right? Because of that, right? So come on in the chat, tell me what's going on, guys. Don't be scared. Don't be scared to say hi. And okay, so let's talk about it, guys. Water damage. All right. So what causes water damage? It could be a broken pipe. It could be a leaky roof, right? I mean, it could be pretty much anything. It could be what's called condensation. And what is condensation? Condensation is when warm air contacts a cooler surface, right? Like say you got a basement or something. You got a damp, cool basement, and you got warm air contacting that for some reason. It can cause condensation, and the reason it's condensation is because you see a lot of puddles of water or droplets of water dripping down the wall, stuff like that. That's a form of water damage, right? Or it can cause water damage if it's ignored. Okay, it could be your sewer system is backed up. It could be appliances, like say on the last live I spoke of a washing machine hose, right? If you see bubbles in your washing machine hose, that's a sign that hose may burst at some point and flood your home. So you got to look at things like that, appliances, right? And then of course it could be a natural disaster, something like a hurricane. If you live in Florida, like I used to, I'm from an area where I experienced hurricanes all the time when they came through in the hurricane season. So stuff like that, you can't control that, right? But all the other things you can, right? Well, to some degree, right? The thing about water damage is that you don't really know what's going on until it's too late, right? You can't really see when it's happening because it's happening, it's invisible. It's happening behind the walls where the pipes are and all that stuff. That's most of the time that's when it's happening. But it's good to look for signs all the time to inspect those areas, especially the moist areas like your bathrooms, kitchens, stuff like that. Where water, you use water the most in your home. Okay, so some of the things that can happen as a result of water damage is, as we all know, mold. Right, mold is a very insidious. It's a very insidious thing to deal with when it comes to water damage. Mold and bacteria. That follows water damage. Anytime it's excess moisture where it shouldn't be, mold and bacteria tend to follow. Okay, even if it's not even a large level of water damage, mold and bacteria can definitely follow behind that. Okay, so and the thing about it is mold and bacteria, it can spread like to your ventilation system. Say if you got central air, you got say if you're in a building with a central air or the ventilation system, mold can infest that, and then everybody's breathing that stuff in and not even knowing. So water damage is nothing to play with. Okay, all that stuff can multiply right up under your nose, and you won't know it until you're sick or coughing and wheezing, stuff like that. If you got asthma, that's a double whammy against you. Okay, so you definitely want to if you suspect, right, or if right, so let's say something happened where water damaged the area. It's no question about it. Something, washing machine, blew up or something like that, and or the sink or something, the plumbing overflowed and flooded your place. Right then and there, water damage has definitely happened. Okay, and mold and bacteria is following right behind that. All right, so best thing to do is call in the pros, call in the water restoration damage people, water mitigation people. And there's a difference, by the way, between water mitigation and water restoration damage, or water damage restoration. There's a difference between the two. One is just stopping the issue right then and there. The other one's about repair and replace. Okay, mitigation is about stopping the water damage in its tracks as best you could, right? But it doesn't replace or fix anything. It doesn't replace property. It doesn't fix pipes or nothing like that. It just stops it as best it can. The water restoration guys, they go in there and replace pipes. They replace drywall and all of that. They look for mold and they get the mold out of there. Water mitigation doesn't do that. Okay, so yeah, just know the difference between mitigation and restoration damage. All right, so what else, guys? Yeah, so some of the things you may notice if you start having a stuffy nose for no reason, a chronic cough, you start wheezing and stuff like that, coughing all the time. Don't ignore that. It could be anything. Of course, it could be you got a cold, so just a common cold. But if you're not prone to having colds and stuff like that, if you're not a sickly person, and then all of a sudden you start having these symptoms, think about it's a possibility in the back of your mind. What's going on in the home, right? Check the bathroom out. Go check out my video on how to use what do they call it? The device to check for mold growth. Okay, I got videos on that. You know what I mean? Check out the moist area in your homes. Look for any kind of visible signs of mold or bacteria growth. That could be the problem, right? Anytime you have any kind of respiratory symptoms going on there that you never had before. Okay. All right. Let's see who is nobody's on the chat yet. Okay, no problem. I will continue. All right. So what else? What else, guys? Okay. Poor air quality. That's another result of water damage as well. It can really reduce your air quality and cause some of those symptoms that I just mentioned, some of those health symptoms I just mentioned. Okay, so make sure you look out for this stuff. Okay, and once again, one of the biggest risks is like I mentioned before when I first started the live, is that if water contacts anything electrical, right, that's a problem. That can cause a fire, burn your house down, burn whatever down, and so it's nothing to play with. Another thing you got to look out for, besides mold and bacteria, when it comes to water damage, is four-legged critters. Who are those? I'm not talking about your dog. I'm not talking about your cat. I'm talking about rodents, rats, mice. By the way, I saw something online the other day. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was in a store in New York or something like that. Somebody may have seen this clip. I never seen a rat. I mean, this rat was as big as a cat, and it was real. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Those things can get huge. But yeah, so if you don't want that running around, be on the lookout for water damage, because they definitely come behind a water damage as well. Okay, so you got mold, bacteria, and now you got rats or rodents, whatever they are, and all kinds of insects. If you're scared of roaches, like I know some people are freaked out about those, they come behind all that stuff too. Roaches, spiders, all kinds of insects. Okay, they love moisture. Okay, they love moisture. So make sure you keep your spot dry. All right. So if you had any kind of leak, major leak or flood or something like that, yeah, you just start by seeing you may start seeing more insects show up. You may start seeing more rats and rodents and mice or whatever critters they got out there. They start showing up too. Okay. Yeah. So as well as termites as well. That's another one. Okay. We all know what termites can do. And what's the biggest risk for water damage as well? What's the biggest risk for ignoring signs of water damage? Well, it's pretty obvious. It takes money to repair it, right? So that's a financial risk, right? So I think the cost to repair it can range for water damage restoration. It could go up to around, according to my research, it can go up to around, it can be from between $1,300 to $6,000. Okay, so if you got that laying around, good for you. You know what I mean? if you should all have an emergency fund, but yeah, it can cost that much. Okay. Not to mention just slow leaks, right? If you got to say you got a slow leak, um, you may not have to pay up front to pay for a flood or something that happened. But if you have a slow leak going on in your plumbing, not only could that cause water damage, but your water bill may be sky high, and you're wondering why it's all the way up there, because you had a leak in there. So, and you didn't even know it. Right behind the walls, something's leaking, something's busted, and that's. So if you notice that your bill shot up for some odd reason, and you're not using that much water, it could be a leak there. Okay, so then you're gonna have to call in the pros to take care of that for you. Okay, so yeah, and that goes for anything. That goes for a gas bill as well. Like if your gas bill is high, that could be a gas leak as well, right? And that's not only expensive, but it's dangerous, right? So you definitely want to keep your eye on the lookout for that. And once again, electrical hazards, right? You don't want any fires happening. Okay. All right, guys. What else? What else about water damage can we discuss here? Let's talk about some of the signs to look for. Okay. Let's talk about some of the signs to look for when it comes to water damage. Peeling, bubbling, or flaking paint, right? So I'm working on a property right now. It's not necessarily water. Well, it could be the moisture on the base of the walls that I'm working on. But if you see a lot of bubbling in your paint, a lot of peeling, that could be a sign of water damage, especially inside the home. On the outside of the home, you can't kind of expect that. You got sprinkler system on. It's hitting the base of the house a lot, so that's gonna over time it's gonna cause the paint to peel. So that's not necessarily. It's a form of water damage, but it's something that you would expect. All right. So if you see a lot of cracks, you got cracks in your siding on your home, or even inside the home, you see a lot of cracks and stuff, and they form a pattern. That could be a sign of something going on behind the walls. All right. Like I said, mold growth, right? If how do you know it's mold there? Sometimes mold becomes visible, but if the mold becomes visible, then I would say that it's way too far gone, right? Because most of this stuff happens over time, right? So if you start, when things become visible, it's usually too late, right? It's usually, then now you got to tear down walls, you got to replace stuff. Okay, so molds they like corners. They like corners where walls and ceilings and floors meet. That's what mold likes. If you notice, if you're taking a bath in your shower and you notice the mildew on there, usually in the corner, right? Like where the tub and the tile meet, right in that corner where the tub meets those. For some reason, they like corners, whatever that's about. So yeah, so if you got basements and stuff like that where it's like humid and damp, always, definitely run the risk of things going on down there. Another thing to look for is your ceiling, right? If your ceiling starts to sag on you, or if it's not you, but if you're an inspector and you notice sagging ceilings, that's also a sign of water damage as well. You see stains and different stains appearing on the ceiling, stuff like that. They look kind of rusty colored, or yellowish. Then that could be a sign of water damage, right? Appearing out of nowhere. And obviously, when things start smelling funny, that's also a sign, right? You have that damp smell, right? They call mustiness. That's a sign that's water damage going on as well. Okay, or some kind of moisture happening, too much moisture happening down there. So like if you're looking at your walls, for instance, your drywall, and you notice it's kind of sinking in some spots, and it's soft in some spots, just kind of press on it, and you can tell that it's not as firm as the rest of the drywall. That's another sign that some water damage is going on. If it sinks in or is depressed, on the surface of the drywall, that's another sign. Or if it's different colors, and once again the bubbling paint, right? The peeling paint. That's a telltale sign right there. Okay. let's see. It's pretty much the same with all four walls, the ceilings. Same with the floors. Um, all that stuff. Okay, so some things are pretty obvious, like the smells and the sagging roofs or ceilings, and some things are not so visible, right? And that's like the mold and stuff like that, or the leaks behind the wall. All this thing contributes to the final demise of, if it's ignored long enough, uh, the final demise of, what was once a, a healthy piece of property. So yeah, that's, water damage is sneaky, man. I'm telling you, it's sneaky. Before it shows up, it's already done a lot of damage. Okay, it's already done a lot of damage. So you got to be on the lookout for that. If you're diligent about taking care of your home, this is one subject matter that you can't ignore. Okay, this is something that you can't ignore. Okay, all right. So, all right, let's see. Okay. All right. Nope. Let me see here, guys. So I mentioned water damage versus water mitigation, water damage restoration versus water mitigation. Okay, so like I said, water mitigation is more of a emergency procedure right then and there. It just tries to stop, okay, or stops the water, whatever, leaking or flooding right in its tracks. Okay, so that's what happens. Okay, so when the water mitigation guys come in, um, they'll probably take out all, like if it's flooded or something like that, they'll take out all the damaged property, right? The damaged stuff like furniture. They pull the carpet out for you. They'll take that stuff out. They'll try to inspect the whole area to see how serious is the water damage. Okay, how serious is the water damage? And they have different types of water, by the way. They have clear water, okay? They have gray water, and they have black water, okay? And clear water is clean water, usually potable, and it says typically from burst water supply pipes. Okay, so that's probably water. Clear water is clean. They're trying to say, basically the cleanest type of water, probably something you can bathe in or probably drink. Then you got gray water. Gray water is like murky water, and it's probably something what you find in washing machines. Where stuff is being washed, dishwashers, tubs where you bathe in, and then you have black water. Okay, and that's the contaminated water from toilets or sewage lines. Okay, so all this stuff can be part of the water damage, right? Especially if it's flooded, you got all kinds of stuff in there, contaminated stuff, sewage. I mean, imagine walking around and sewage in your home, right? Sewage all over the place. But it happens, right? So the guys that do the mitigation portion of it, they're very high. One of their jobs is to disinfect anything that's left, anything that's salvageable. They disinfect it, okay? Because once again, if it's some serious water damage going on, you're talking about contaminated water with all kinds of bacteria that can make you sick, right? You can get infected with something, right? So you don't want to be wading around in a flood like in your home if something like that happens, because you don't know what you're walking around in or dealing with. So you definitely want to call in the guys to do the disinfection for you and get out of there. Okay. So they'll take pumps, like submersible pumps, and I'll probably do a video on what that is. That's just a pump. Like if something's flooded, you got pumps you can drop in the water, and it'll, you connect it to a long hose, and that pump will pump out all the water into the street or something like that, and get rid of the water, at least, right? And so they do all of that, right? And what else do they do? Yeah, it says they board up windows and they lock down a property if needed. So and they do a lot of that, say in storm prone areas. right? Like where it's a lot of hurricanes and storms, like down there in Florida, or in the in the Caribbean or the islands or something like that, where Hurricane Alley, you'll see a lot of places boarded up. That's the water mitigation guys. Okay, and then after all of that, after they assess the situation, then the restoration guys come in and they remove all the the damaged drywall and all the structural stuff that's been affected by the water, and they pull all that stuff out. They pull out all the floors stuff, the floor coverings. They may even replace the subfloor, right? The stuff that's under your carpet, close to the foundation. They replace that, and they remove all the mold. Like I said, that's called mold remediation. They take all the mold out, and they replace everything that's like I said, it's been affected by the water, like windows and doors even. Okay, they may even fix the roof, right? So there's a roofing element to water damage restoration, because you're talking about, and when you're talking about storms, everything's affected from the roof down to the subfloor. Okay, everything in between. Okay, and then after all of that, they test for moisture to make sure that everything's dry. Okay, and I'm sure they have levels, right? There's levels to what they consider dry enough for you to be able to come back in the dwelling, right, and be safe. Okay, so once again, that can cost you a few $1,000s, right? A few $1,000, but if you have the insurance, then if you're prepared, then you should be okay. Okay. All right. Claudette McCoy. Hey, Claudette. Thanks for coming in. How about creaking floors? Yeah, that could be, if you got wooden floors, that could be a sign as well. I think when I was doing the research, it says when you hear strange sounds like that, I think creaking floors was one of the things that you may experience as a result of water damage, right? Sounds that you didn't hear before, sounds in the walls, like rushing sounds of water in the pipes, things like that. Okay, that may alert you of a leak in the system or in your piping. Maybe even knocking sounds, right? And things like that. Yeah, so creaking, that's a good example of things you may not find in the research. But yeah, creaking floors, sounds, rushing water, knocking sounds, things like that. Okay. Good point, Claudia. Thanks for that. Yeah. So, guys, I hope you understand how serious water damage can be. It can start very small, right? It can you won't even know when it's happening. To be honest with you, it'll start behind the wall somewhere under, or whatever, in the roof somewhere, a leak somewhere going on, and it just spreads. All the mold, bacteria, all that stuff spreads, and by the time you realize what's going on, you're already sick, you're already coughing, or somebody's sick in the house, and you don't know what's happening. And but if you see the visible stuff, jump on it right away. Don't just ignore it and say, oh, that's just something on the wall. Oh, what's that? It's that wasn't there before. Well, yeah, there's a reason why it's there. Jump on it right away and get up in, if you have to, get up in that attic or something and see what's going on. Or if you live on the first floor of an apartment building, or even of a business, and you start seeing these things on your ceiling, like I said, the light fixture thing, that could have been a serious electrical fire there. Look for these things. But if you live on the first floor, alert the landlord or something. Like, tell them, hey, look, I see that, this is, that wasn't there before, and let them know, because even if it's not leaking, pouring water out, if mold and bacteria built up enough, it can it can cause you some serious problems health wise. So yeah, guys. So I appreciate you guys coming on here, listen to me rant about water damage. But I thought it was a good issue, given the fact that I encountered a form of it over the past couple of weeks, and I figured I'd give you guys a heads up about it. In your so if you have your own home, or you're working in an environment where you can tell on the walls or in the ceiling something's going on, and it's not a healthy environment for you, just get out of there, right? Your health is worth more than anything, right? So you go find another job somewhere. But if you got someone ignoring these things, or if you got a landlord acting like they don't care, or they'll get to it and they never get to it, well, maybe it's time for you to move, right? That's not your responsibility, but it is your responsibility to look out for your own health. Because if you got kids or something like that, you got family, when you're not around, who's going to take care of them? So anyway, guys, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Claudette, for coming on, showing up. Appreciate you. And anybody else watching, please share this information. Hit that like, share, and subscribe for me. And stay tuned for the next live. We'll talk about something interesting when it comes to, home improvement and stuff like that, DIY and all this good stuff. Okay, guys, so I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. Take care.